2 made is not something that you will consider. But underlying my comments today are 4 strongly held views. First, Truchon was wrongly decided and should have been appealed. If nothing changes as a result of this committee's process, that law will have to be challenged in court. Second, Track 2 MAID is not end-of-life care, and any rebuttal that its opponents are seeking to interfere with end-of-life choices is specious and beside the point. Third, there are 3 possible ways to interpret why our government did not appeal Truchon. Because of political calculations that had nothing to do with the issue before the court, or because a grievous and irremediable disability is somehow akin to end of life, insofar as it is believed to be the end of meaningful life or life of value, or because beyond the end of life context, there are sound policy reasons to terminate the lives of certain persons who desire death. These reasons, it appears, would extend exclusively to disabled persons who suffer intolerably and request MAID. Presumably, the government would oppose a special pathway to MAID for other suffering persons who are not disabled, such as women trapped in conditions of violent domestic abuse, or parents bearing the irremediable grief of the sudden death of an only child. Of these 3 explanations, the first would be unconscionable, the second unacceptable, and the third both disingenuous and discriminatory. I therefore take as my starting point that Track 2 is not an expression of equality. It is an exemption to equality. But Track 2 is embedded in law, so here we are. The genie is out of the bottle, and we are left counting our dead. That the government that brought us Track 2 is now seeking ways and means to ensure the protection of people with disabilities is a hard pill to swallow. While practitioners lawfully administer the 3-minute procedure that turns life into death, we now spend every waking hour, every moment and resource not already spent on our own survival, throwing out lifelines to pull our disabled kinfolk back from the vortex that funnels them into the beckoning arms of Track 2 MAID. We pour cash into GoFundMes for food, shelter, medicine, and therapy. We pour our hearts into rescue efforts for friends and strangers, bearing witness to the injustice that afflicts them. And we rigorously record every tragic case where our efforts failed or came too late. I believe you call these anecdotes. We are not trained or resourced for any of this, but our people are dying, and we must step up to save them. You have heard a consistent message from disability rights defenders. To stop the carnage of Track 2, you must do everything within your power to reinstate the equality-affirming requirement for reasonably foreseeable natural death, and delay indefinitely any further expansion of Track 2 MAID. While you are at it, shore up the requirements for Track 1 MAID, at the very least, by explicit affirmation of existing guardrails in the law that have been quietly set aside in actual MAID practice and discourse. These measures will save lives, but they will not restore equality or undo the incalculable damage from a catastrophic social experiment. That is because much of the harm that was unleashed as you celebrated the passage of Bill C-7 was somehow beyond your imagining. The underlying message of Track 2 was clear, and it entered our cultural bloodstream with the speed of an infectious pathogen. The toxic notion that life with disability is optional, and by extension, dispensable, is now in the ether. We are detecting its presence in everyday discourse, in unsolicited coaching from social service gatekeepers, crisis line workers, and ordinary citizens having their say in letters to the editor of the local paper. MAID has swiftly been normalized as a way to relieve the cost and toil of those who are burdened with our care. Its euphemistic